We close out another week of fantasy hockey draft preparation, and our draft boards are on the horizon, my fantasy GMs, and it's time to break down pick by pick how we see the second round playing out. And we'll start with Mitch Marner. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A second round breakdown of picks 17 through 32 in a 16-team league is coming in red hot on the Friday episode of your daily 30-minute source for fantasy hockey, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers who continue to hold us down and make us your first listen every single day. We see you. We appreciate you. We couldn't be doing the pod without you. Mr. Roden, yesterday we went through every single draft selection pick by pick in a 16-team league. 1 through 16 was pretty much, except for the end of that round, what we expect. Today's episode, I think, is going to be a much more interesting conversation from the perspective of these players might be a little bit more in flux in terms of where they go. This is how we see the second round breaking down, and we'll give you our analysis on player by player. We're starting at 17. Mitch Marner. Over to you, my friend. We had Willie at 16. Hit me with your take on Mitch in Vegas this season.
Yeah, I've made it a little bit known how I feel about him going to Vegas and my expectations for what his point production could be like this year. He put up a career season, 102 point with the Toronto Maple Leafs last year in 81 games, 33 points on the power play, a plus 18, 173 shots. You look at all that and what he has done over the last 4 straight seasons with at least 25 goals, at least 85 points. It's the consistency that makes Mitch Marner very valuable in his fantasy leagues. The elite playmaking over the recent years and pretty much throughout his entire career, we've seen his total assists amongst the top in the league. Only players like McKinnon, McDavid, Kucherov are ahead of him in primary assists. His power play usage, like I said, I expect him and Jack Eichel to put on an absolute clinic on the man advantage. The Vegas Golden Knights had one of the best power plays last season. I think it gets even better with Mitch Marner in the mix. I think Jack Eichel becomes more of a scorer than more of a playmaker than what Mitch Marner is. I think it speaks volumes for what it can do to a guy like Pavel Dorofeyev as well, playing on that top line with both Eichel and Mitch Marner. Great pick. I think if you can draft Jack Eichel in that range of 12 to 14 and swing around and get Mitch Marner, I think that's a great pair to start off in the first 2 rounds.
I think that would be absolutely sensational if you do have a bit of a later first round pick and you're in a team league like us. 16 GMs are going to go toe to toe. I would have taken Mitch in that 16 spot over Willie. I think we spoke about that yesterday. I would have swapped that around, but this is our consensus, and I'm totally fine with this quickly because we spoke so much about Mitch. Fantasy-wise, he is going to bring it. What does this mean for the Toronto Maple Leafs? We've talked about it, but how about what Mitch has done in his career? 221 goals, that's 14th all-time for the Maple Leafs, but then assists, he's 4th all-time. Points, 5th all-time with 741. Power play points, 5th all-time. This is a guy who gets it done on special teams or otherwise. And you mentioned the Vegas Golden Knights last year, Steele. 2nd best power play in the NHL, clicking at over 28%, and they scored the 5th most goals. And now Jack Eichel, who's been steadily improving, gets the best winger he has ever had. Could be huge. We don't need to talk more about it. Mitchie comes in at 17. Braden Point. Speaking of good situations, how about he plays on the best line in hockey, arguably? Jake Gensel, Nikita Kucherov on his flanks. You want yourself Braden Point this year. In my opinion, what you saw last year, 82 points in 77 games, is somewhat under what I would have put him at for 82. So maybe he does go to 90 points still if he plays all year last year. And I think he is all day steady as she goes as a 90-point player, in my opinion. You factor in what he's able to do on the power play as well. 16 power play goals last year. I love Braden Point this year. The Tampa Bay Lightning are going to run back another really good, balanced team. Shout out to John Cooper behind the bench. Braden Point for me is a very attractive start of the second round player. that if Mitch isn't there, Braden Point's got to be the next guy up.
Yeah, he really did. He really does. And those are two players that are very similar in styles. I mean, one plays center, one plays right wing, but very similar games between Mitch Marner and a guy like Braden Point. So in that range, I think those are two very valuable guys, especially Braden Point, who just seems like consistently puts up 40 goals with ease every single season. With the 19th pick, we decided that you should go with Sam Reinhart. Again, a guy who's been very durable over the last few seasons, has only missed 3 games in the last 3 years, consistently putting up 30, 35 goals, 80, 85 points throughout the season as well. And again, you look at how they have been dominating the game over the last 3 years, 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances for the Florida Panthers. Again, you look at Sam Reinhart across the board, really good shot volume, over 200 shots, really strong shooting percentage. The offensive system with the power play involvement makes him a very valuable player in fantasy hockey. So he's definitely a second round pick on the early side when you swing back around in that second round.
And I would, though, be cautious here because he is a very attractive name on a good team. Last year, you saw, I think, him return to the area where is much more where I'm comfortable expecting and projecting him. So 2 years ago, he has 94 points and 57 goals. I think everyone saw this year him returning back to, that 35 to 40 goal realm. He put up 39. What I'm trying to say is 81 points is right where I project him, but it still makes him super valuable. How about he also had a career high in hits last year, Steele. He's a 40-goal man, and he's bringing triple digits in hits. He's a shoo-in for a second-round pick, and then he's got the quality of team behind him. Something that number 20 doesn't have is that quality of team, and it's my boy Sidney Crosby here, Steele, and if you're okay, I got to pop off on Sid for a hot minute. What you've seen from Sidney Crosby, both on and off the ice, has been nothing short of a masterclass. Leadership, being a good teammate, getting it done on the ice with production, still chipping in with peripheral loves of almost 40 block shots and almost 70 hits. Steele, the guy is going to be 38 years old, and he just put up 3 straight 90-point seasons on a very average ho-hum team. Sidney Crosby is locked in here as a middle-range second-round pick or early second-round pick that is going to bring you 80-plus points. He knows he doesn't have much for another shot at the playoffs with this Pittsburgh team, and he's put his team on his back. There's nothing much else to say other than with Sid, you know what you're going to get. At this age, Steele, he has been very durable. 80 games last year, previous to 82 games. I love Sid in this spot. I'll be going after Sid in our leagues. How could you not? Steady as she goes. Imagine he had another good piece or two in that top 6. He'd be getting 100 points. And that's really impressive considering all the miles on his body.
Yeah, it really is. And you can never count out Sid the Kid in fantasy hockey season. I think the same can be said for a guy like Alex Ovechkin if he doesn't go down with that injury last year. I mean, these guys just age like fine wine. And it's so hard to deny Sidney Crosby and what he has been able to do over the last 3 seasons. Like you said, 90-plus points. When we come back after the break, we will continue to break down the second round and how exactly it should play out in our minds, our rankings of the first 2 rounds. Watch the first round episode yesterday. We posted that one. Keep checking us all week long. When we come back after the break, Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast.
And make sure you're locked in on Monday, our latest Mock Draft Monday episode. We're going to have divisional breakdowns. We're going to have everything that you need to dominate drafts and make money. Steele, don't forget, nightly betting breakdowns coming up right around the corner. You want to keep track of your money? Do it all at Monarch Money. Most people, and today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money, by the way, Steele. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401k, properties, investments, and you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in, an all-in-one financial finance tool that brings you all you need in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Built for people with busy lives, Monarch Money gets you organized with your finances, today. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting for you. You link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks or pass you by. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review, share with your friends and family out there. We continue to break down the second round of the 2025-26 Fantasy Hockey Draft. Sidney Crosby in that 20th spot. Rasmus Dahlin in 21st spot going into this season. And I really love this player. He's one of the top offensive defensemen in the league. He was top 5 last year with 68 points, 17 goals. He contributes in almost every single category for defensemen, in which defensemen are typically judged on: shots, block shots, hits, power play points. His peripherals are very strong, amongst one of the best in the league in defensemen. Logs heavy ice time as well, used in all situations: 5-on-5, man advantage, man disadvantage on the penalty kill. If this Buffalo team can get back into what the power play was 2 seasons ago when they were dominating, that even increases Rasmus Dahlin's fantasy value going into the season. He's just consistent year over year with what he puts in. And honestly, now that I'm looking at it and looking back at when we did our top 10 defensemen, I actually had him ranked 3rd on that list, and he comes in 4th amongst defensemen on this list. I might have to adjust that, but Rasmus Dahlin, one of my favorite players to draft because he fills all those peripherals you need.
He comes in at 3rd on this list, doesn't he, technically, in terms of D-man? We got Quinn Hughes, we got Cale Makar, and then we got Rasmus Dahlin, I think. So he's not too far off of that projection for yourself.
Yes.
However, this is a situation where I think you and I might be in the minority of putting him ahead of guys like Werenski this year and even Evan Bouchard. On both NHL.com and Matt Larkin's listings, Dahlin is behind both of those players. Are we crazy for thinking this? I don't think we are, because the Buffalo Sabres had another kind of ho-hum year, and they still finished 10th in the NHL in overall goals for. The team is getting better. We like UPL in the cage. He plays with Bowen Byram, a very good pairing to kind of offset what he can do at both ends of the ice. And I think people maybe need to pay attention to what he can do peripherally. Those numbers have dipped over the last couple of years, Steele. Blocks down, the hits kind of teetering out and going down a little bit as well. He is still only 24, going to be 24. He's 25 years old now. Rasmus Dahlin, for me, and especially in the banger leagues that you and I play in, he is the 3rd D-man off the board, most definitely. But it makes sense that in a couple of spots, it's Werenski. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about your bread man, if you don't mind. Excuse me for that. Because, look, speaking of getting better, you and I haven't actually spoken about the New York Rangers. But what Artemi Panarin brings to the table, regardless of what you think is going to happen with the Rangers this year, and I think there's a bounce back coming. There's a lot less distractions. All of the madness with Chris Drury hopefully is over. This guy had 120 points just 2 years ago, Steele. He's a perennial 90-point man. He is very, very sneaky good offensively. He's going to play on the top power play unit in New York. He is a stud. And also, we were just talking about reliable. 82 games and 80 last year. He has been reliable as well. I love Breadman in this spot, and I know he's a player that you've been very high on over the past couple of years.
Yes, I am. And all he does is put up points. I mean, throughout his entire NHL career, there has been nothing but consistency and just pure talent when you look at Artemi Panarin, one of the most creative players in the National Hockey League, an elite playmaker, usually with those high assist count, also put up 37 goals last year, 49 goals the year prior. So he has the goal scoring touch. He has the goal scoring ability. The power play usage, it was down last year. We know that things went south very quickly with this New York Rangers team when they started having to make all these trades, trading out their captain, Jacob Trouba, sending out Capo Caco as well to Seattle. A lot of change in New York over the year. They bring back JT Miller, who started his career with them as well. I like this New York Rangers team.
Me
you
too.
know I've been a fan of them
too.
over the last 2 years, putting them as my Stanley Cup favorites.
Ooh.
And I'm buying back into them. They have one of the best
I agree.
tandems, one of the best goalies in
It's a fact.
Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. They bring in new blood on the blue line in Gavrikov and Carson Soucy. You still have Adam Fox. They reshape the top 6 forward group along with the bottom 6. I'm buying in. I talked about Mika Zibanejad as well as a potential bounce back sleeper pick going into this upcoming season. Yep. Number 23 on the list, we do have Zach Werenski, just a few spots back of who we just talked about as well, Rasmus Dahlin. 81 games. And this is what we expect out of Zach Werenski when he is fully healthy. 81 games played, had over 20 goals, 82 points, a career high, 25 power play points as well, which we expect to even increase this season with the likes of Adam Fantilli, Kirill Marchenko, and all those guys. Career high in shots on goal, fills out the peripherals with the blocks and the hits. How do you feel about Zach Werenski?
I feel that this team is going to be very hard to deal with offensively. I have a feeling that also with some of these young D-men like Denton Matejchuk kind of maybe establishing himself a little bit more this year, this could be a team that you see improve on the offensive numbers that had them finish 8th in the league in goals for last year. The question marks remain in the cage. Jet Greaves has 8 games in the NHL. Elvis Merzlikins is not a number 1 guy. Offensively, fantasy, I'm all in on some of these guys. I'll be going heavy after Kirill Marchenko, Adam Fantilli, later rounds. Kent Johnson is a good little sneaky offensive pick. Zach Werenski, though, to be clear, is their surefire number 1 option. And you said it, the health. He was healthy, finally, before he had only played 77 games, his previous high, back when he was 20 years old. He's 28 now. So that was clearly an issue. 131 block shot steal, love it. 298 shots on net, love it even more. Is that number going to return back to probably in between there and 200 where he has most of his career? Yeah, still valuable. And if they do have that offensive uptick, Zach Werenski is going to be another really good blue liner to go after. Next up on our list, though, Steele, if you're good, we're getting to this situation where most people would have another goalie in this scenario, and Andrei Vasilevsky is going to head into the season after a really good year last year in Tampa, right in this middle of the second round realm. For the sake of how we broke this down, though, I'll throw it back over to you because clearly I've been a little bit confused. But Nick Suzuki is a guy that I think I've taken heat for, but I don't understand why. And I'm going to be okay to stay 10 toes down on this one and stick to my guns. Nick Suzuki is going to have a big year. Call me wrong if you want. Call it too early for a centerman. Those things might still hold true, but this is opinion-based. And when you see his progression in the NHL and you see the statistics up there now, his 89 points, 27 power play points, 9 game-winning goals, he's bringing some peripheral love and steal. This team is going to take a step. Hit me with their number 1 man, who I absolutely love in this spot. I understand the center position is a little bit more stocked up. I'm not passing on him. I'm going hard in the paint after Nick Suzuki, and I'll take the heat if I have to.
I completely understand why you have Nick Suzuki here. And honestly, I would have Nick Suzuki here as well. I want to talk about Andrei Vasilevsky after the break, but looking back and looking at what Nick Suzuki accomplished last year, he should be at this at least top 25 mark. He was top 20. I believe he was top 20, maybe just outside, somewhere around the 22nd ranking, but he finished the season in the top 25 last year. I know that it was a career year, 89 points.
There you go.
Spoken very much about how this team is going to look going into the upcoming season with Demidov, with Cole Caulfield, with bringing in Noah Dobson, how we feel about Sam Montembeault. I admire you putting Nick Suzuki here. He should be here in the top 25. When we come back after the break, I also want to speak on Andrei Vasilevsky and why he also should be in the second round of this upcoming season. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready to kick off with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy and fun to those Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Continuing to break down the second round of the 2025-26 fantasy hockey season. I also wanted to talk about Andrei Vasilevskiy because I believe he needs to be mentioned in the same facet of where we're placing and ranking these players as well. We've spoken about, again, drafting goaltenders, finding the value in the later rounds. Yeah. But we all know once that second goalie goes off the board, they all start to go. And if you're feeling a goaltender, the second best option behind Connor Hellebuyck is Andrei Vasilevskiy. Vasilevskiy finished top 10 in the fantasy hockey rankings last year. Hellebuyck finished second overall. Vasilevskiy was right there at number 8. 63 games played. He's right there back in old form and old shape. 38 wins, 20 losses, 5 overtime losses as well. A .921 save percentage would put him right there in the top 5. 218 goals against average, 6 shutouts. He's right there behind Connor Hellebuyck. So with all of that back into Stanley Cup form, Andrei Vasilevskiy is the second best goaltending option on the board, and he should be the second one taken off the board in the second round.
Such a good year last year. He's going to be behind a really good team. That Atlantic Division is going to be a bloodbath. So there's going to be some times I think like every single team might go through it. And I think that's just an indication of how good the teams have been. We're going to have to speed through a couple of these players here. Evan Bouchard, I think, is one that I'm comfortable with talking about already a lot headed over the last couple of seasons. 67 points from him last year. He gets those block shots. He's going to get you 200 plus shots on net. With the Edmonton Oilers, say what you will about what they've done in falling short in the postseason. They've been right there, and they're going to be a regular season juggernaut. He gets to play on the power play with McDavid and Draisaitl. I think we can move on here. This guy is definitely, however you want to break down D-man, he's a top 5 option. However your league is formatted, however you want to look at it, he's a top 5 option, whether he's 5 or 4, or some people want to maybe do the opposite of us and put him there at the 3rd. He's not above Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes, that's for sure. So he falls into the second round, for sure a top 5. That's kind of a lock. Let's talk about Jake Guentzel, unless you have a take on Evan Bouchard.
No, let's get to Jake Guentzel. Again, right there in that same breadth of what we were saying with Braden Point, just a guy who can easily put up 40 goals, 80 points in a season, 90 on the high end, gets a lot of shot volume as well. And especially, again, in that Tampa Bay locker room with the talent around him and Kucherov, Point, Victor Hedman on the back end, there is just so much to like about Jake Guentzel's game. A consistent forward. If you leave him alone in front of the net, it's 9 times out of 10, it's ending up in the back of the net past your goaltender. So one of the best goal scorers as well in the league, just very consistent across all the board. One of my favorite guys actually is Philip Forsberg.
Yes, it is.
In the top at the 27th spot. I think a guy again who just fills out all the peripherals, and it's hard to back him up and back up the Nashville Predators team because of what transpired last year. Like, we were all very excited.
They have to be better, right?
They have to be better. They have to be better. We were all so excited. I mean, at least I was excited going into the season, getting in Stamkos, getting in Marchessault, Brady Shea, all those guys.
Yep.
Roman Josi gets hurt for the later stages of last season as well. UC Saros didn't have that expected bounce back season. They have to be better. And for a guy who can also put up close to 40 goals, over 70 points, career high in hits last year as well, over 130 hits. He puts up a ton of shots on net. There's just so much to like about Philip Forsberg, and there's no way they can be any worse than what happened last year. So I really like Philip Forsberg at the number 27 spot. Somewhere in this range is exactly where he should be taken.
They really did have trouble generating scoring chances last year, and that is one of those things that I fits in the mold of they have to improve it. And if that happens, then Philip Forsberg's value goes up. 76 points probably goes up as well. It's funny because you said that's one of your favorites. I think the same can be said for Clayton Keller and Matt Boldy, the next two player on these lists. Let me be very clear here about Clayton Keller. You deserve credit for being on this guy for the last couple of years. A player who's now a perennial 30-goal man at the low end. That needs to be paid attention to. And when I look at this top line, Steele, and actually the top six in Utah in general, Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, and Clayton Keller on that top line, people better pay attention because I'm telling you, those three guys are going to score goals. I don't know about what they will do in terms of being a legitimate playoff team because still lots of young guys, still a relatively top-heavy group. No offense to Oli Mata, Ian Cole, and Nate Schmidt on the blue line.
Yeah.
And John Marino, we like Sergachev. We like Durzi. After that, that blue line is a concern for me. However, fantasy-wise, double, triple, quadruple circle. Clayton Keller, he had 90 points last year, Steele. He should return to 90 points. I don't want to go crazy and say 100-plus points because that's really hard to do in today's NHL, and we're trying to keep it tight. 90 points for Clayton Keller. He's going to bring it. He doesn't bring you peripheral value. So when you draft him, no, he is going to cover your offensive bases and act accordingly afterwards. Clayton Keller locked in here at the mid to late second round. If he's around anything after the second round, Steele, I want into that league because people are slipping.
Dual eligibility, left wing, right wing. I think there's no question he gets back to 90 points, 100 points on a really good year. The Utah power play was, I believe, top 10 last season as well. And I think that can even increase going into this year. So I really like Clayton Keller as well. Matt Boldy, I'm going to just get this one over and quick because we talked about him so much. The fact that he played the full 82 games and still put up 73 points with only half a season from Joel Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov is outstanding. 271 shots on net, 69 blocks, 51 penalty minutes, 21 power play points. All of that will even increase when those guys come back for a full year, when they're healthy. You can expect 30-plus power play points from this team. The fact that they still made it to the playoffs was incredible. Tim Stützle comes in in the third last spot of the second round, 30th overall, 82 games played, 79 points. He brings the hits, the physicality as well, 46 penalty minutes, power play points. You expect this Ottawa Senators team to really jump up as well moving forward. I think Tim Stützle, all these guys who are just getting into like the 24, 25 year old range, Tage Thompson as well, you're expecting them to really pop off soon because they're getting right there into their prime.
And this is the absolute round where you really lay the foundation for your team. The first round, you know what you're doing. It's almost like de facto. You can almost 1 through 10 know what you're going to do. And if a guy gets taken, you know the next player. Here in the second round, if you get a little bit hasty and you perhaps pass on some of these guys that we just spoke about, I'm telling you, Steele, Gensel, Keller, Boldy, Stützle, those are all guys I'm going to be very happy to have on my team. The Ottawa Senators, like you said, should take a step. He has a career high in hits as well last year, Steele, with 130. The shot total going down is a concern, but I think that's just perhaps a little bit of an indication of still a young player getting fully comfortable. And fully comfortable, he's played 367 games. You can still have confidence issues at any age. And I think sometimes that happened with this team, prolonged losing streaks, and with this player. I don't think you're going to have that problem this year, Steele. So Timmy Stutz comes in at another 90-point year for me, something he did only a couple of years ago. You mentioned Tage, nice segue. How about we skip Tage because we spoke so much about him, unless you have something to say, but we just recently spoken about him, and I'll turn it over to you for our final slot here in the second round. And we have a little bit of a split personality, but I'll turn that over for you as well.
Yeah, I think we'll just leave this pretty quick and easy. we have two different options here. I ended up going with JT Miller. Flip went with Jason Robertson. I really think you can go with any guy here playing in the top six for the respective clubs. A guy in JT Miller who, again, he's only 32 years old, and he put up 35 points in 32 games. Once traded to the Rangers, still finished with 70 points in 72 games. A guy that fills out all those peripherals as well. Maybe not the blocks category, but throws a ton of hits, puts up a ton of shots as well. I just think this is people are overlooking this New York Rangers team. However, the same can be said for Jason Robertson. There's been a lot of trade rumor with his name out there, and a guy that still put up 80 points last year and chance to play with Mikko Rantanen, who has the 100-point potential. So either one of these guys is a really good option for that last pick in the second round.
And a player in Rupe Hintz that he's shown is better when he's on the ice with. Rupe Hintz was hurt in the postseason at times. He came back. Jason Robertson popped off. They are great together. Now some more time gelling with Mikko Rantanen. This guy hasn't missed a game steal in 3 straight years as well. That durability angle is popping up, and I think it's one to consider. However,
100%.
make sure you consider staying tapped to the pod 5 days a week, baby. I can't wait for hockey. Steele, we're getting close, pal. We're getting real close.
We're itching. We're itching for the season to start. Remember, send us those DMs if you want to participate in our fantasy hockey listener leagues. We have the casual, we have the competitive leagues. Message us on Instagram, on Twitter. Give us your information. We'll put you in the list, and hopefully your name gets drawn. Again, the cutoff date will be September 27th. The week following will be the drafts. Make sure you DM us. We'll get you on the list. Thank you so much. We appreciate you out there. Stay tuned in for another Monday mock draft. We're hoping to go live this Sunday for the mock draft, so stay tuned for that as well. And we'll see you back here next week.
Peace.